Bullshit.
Oh my goodness! Like, why is mead like not even open right now? It's 2020, damn it!
There are some places that have like liquor license restrictions and stuff. Apparently.
Oh shit! Oh,
we're live.
Hey, we are live!
Perfect.
And we are live! Welcome to Live Action Roleplay with
Cynthia Marie.
And Kai Norman.
And Ryan Omega. So, apt for today. When
things go wrong.
The topic for today is things that don't go as planned. Because 2020. What is everyone drinking today? I'm going to start with Sin.
Speaking of things that didn't go as planned today, I had planned to get my food and eat in a nice calm state and all that jazz. I left my credit card at home, had to drive all the way home to go back. Actually, I drove to my parents' house to go get their credit card, came back, had to pick up their food and all that stuff. So I didn't have time to pour my own drink, so I'm drinking sake out of the bottle. Okay?
Yes! Yes! Treat yourself!
Yeah.
Kai!
Yes. My drink? Well, I was planning on ordering some alcohol on an app, but apparently the place closed literally moments before I hit order. So I guess for now I'm just surviving on boring H2O.
Boring, but necessary. Totally cool, awesome job. I am drinking this AT House Tokyo drink, which is essentially red bean and matcha latte, which is delicious. But I'm also pairing that with a Rosatello drink, rose wine, because rosé all day. And shout outs. Do we have any shout outs for people today? I'm going to start off with Kai this time.
Yeah.
Any shout outs?
For once, I do. It is the 5th of November, and it is a birthday as well for a friend of mine called Dustin Fletcher, who quite a few of you may know. And he's especially well known for his show that he co-runs called D4. And it is awesome, and it's also a Twitch show. So
awesome. Happy birthday, Dustin. We love you.
Love you.
All right. Sin, any shout outs?
My brain is totally not on track for shout outs, so I'm just gonna keep saying what I've been saying, keep doing the thing that you do, and keep fighting the good fight. Love you all very much.
All right, for me, I know we have this rule. All of us agreed to this rule, which is no discussion of politics, including LARP politics. With that said, I only do want to give one shout out because it is an important one. I want to give a shout out to the clerks because, oh my God, the amount of pressure they are under just to make everything normal. Thank you for your patience. And I get that you are doing your job. And frankly, this election could have been absolutely horrible, but democracy is a slow process. So thank you for doing what you do, because I know a lot of people are on your ass, and you are keeping up democracy. So thank you. All right. So today's topic, like the intro, which was not planned, it was, I think it was a combination of missing Joe's cue, and also maybe it's our headspace right now because it's been a stressful, anxious week. We just wanted a light topic, and the topic is things that don't go as planned. Now, this can be anything and everything related to that. This could be awesome things that happened as a result of, I didn't plan this, but this thing happened, or this is the worst fail that ever happened. Let me tell you this story. So, trying to figure out, how do we start this? And I'm also interested hearing from chat some of your stories. Does anybody want to go first? Otherwise, I can start with random stuff.
I'm super excited to hear your story.
Me?
Yeah, I kind of want to hear your story.
Well, mine is relatively mild. About things that don't go as planned. Related to LARP, or I guess any kind of role playing scenario. I still think one of the most interesting things that didn't go off as planned was my first live stream for D&D was called Furious Fate, and it was on the channel Maze Arcana, and we had I had like castmates such as Dodger and Sig Neutron from Face Off and Kyle Vogt from The Room, and we were all castmates. And the thing that didn't go as planned was our DM Rudy had set up all of these particular characters for me to talk to in secret to find out what was going on. And because I misunderstood what a portcullis is, because I've never understood what that was, I thought that after accidentally trying to intimidate this person who was supposed to be my contact, I accidentally electrocuted him against this portcullis. Now, I thought a portcullis was a set of tavern doors like you would find in Western movies. I did not know it was the castle closing of a gate, because I have never heard that term before. So I thought, we're going to try to do. I try to walk in, misunderstanding what it was. Instead, I accidentally, in self-defense, electrocute my contact that was supposed to lead me to the rest of my adventure and give me all of these clues. And then I mistakenly run into the portcullis thinking that it was, set tavern doors, and electrocute myself and rolled a 1 and basically shocked myself to near death. That was my first thing on D&D. And the very first thing I thought was, I fucking sucked. They're going to get rid of me. They're going to kill me off. And I saw chat later. They said that was the best 6 seconds of trying to open a door I've seen. So you don't know how the audience was going to react. I kind of thought, oh my God, this is the stupidest thing. And I made so many mistakes. So I have learned, first of all, when you don't know what a thing is, do not be afraid to ask your DM, I don't know what this is. Don't assume. And second, the audience might actually think what you're doing is super entertaining instead of the worst thing in the world. So just roll with it. Oh, see, I don't even. Kai just sent me a message like it's actually called portcullis instead of portcullis. I thought. See, I don't even know this word. Okay. God, freaking darn it.
I didn't want to correct you on the feed. I figured it would just be like, but yeah.
That's okay. No, but again, things that don't go as planned. All right. So, do any of you have stories of things that don't go as planned?
I don't know. I'm someone who plans a lot of things, and I plan for a lot of scenarios and risks. So I'm having a hard time coming up with something that didn't go as planned. You have to come back to me. I got to think about this.
Sure. Kai.
So when we were talking about this earlier, I said that I tend to have this amazing habit of for either intentionally or not so intentionally forgetting my failures, which, to be honest, in a way has sometimes bitten me in the ass before. But I make a point of trying to learn from things. But yeah, I don't have too many really good ones, which is a bit of a problem with it. I do find that a lot of my when I make slip-ups, usually I can kind of try and improvise my way out of it. There's definitely been times where I've been in disguise and I've said things that were things that only my actual character would know, or at least only a few people would know. And I would proceed to kind of screw myself on that. I'd be like, crap, I just outed myself. Oh boy. And then just a lot of backtracking and attempting to gaslight people, which isn't great. But for a character that you're trying to like cover for the fact that you said something, you let slip something and they're like, wait, did you just say that? And you're like, no, I didn't say that at all. No one heard me say that thing at all. Right, guys? And other people would try to back me up. Yeah, it was... ultimately, people believe you if you have a lot of conviction.
I mean, speaking to your point, actually, that brings up a good topic. I know sometimes it's hard for us to talk about, talk about something that didn't go as planned, but you were talking about a scenario of this plan didn't work and you began to improvise when that scenario did not work out for you. So that might be an easier thing to do. One of the ones I always allude to is Blank Slate, where I was on the 3rd episode and I only had 5 characters available, which was not enough to actually get the action going. And a lot of my key characters were missing out of different circumstances. Someone was sick, someone was filming somewhere else, and I was freaking out because when half of your cast is gone, what do you do? And the only thing I could think of is, okay, I'm going to make all the behind the scenes people who are dressed in black, I'm going to turn them into characters. And I'm going to call them the Timeless. So they're going to be these spooky people and they're going to come in and we're going to make up stuff and this is going to be a thing. And I remember planning that an hour before we went on because I would have panicked if I didn't come up with more characters. Because I already had like those people playing like various NPCs. I'm like, what if I just made them entities? And the end result was a fantastic accident that became part of the mythos for Blank Slate. So it was actually a very happy accident. Sometimes these things are meant to be. That's the best way to describe it. That was a happy accident that turned out to change the game forever in a good way.
I find that when I'm running a LARP is very much like making costumes. I found, be it making costumes is a little bit of a slower element with this, but when it comes to certain things, no matter how well you plan, it is still going to have some kind of element that is the equivalent of jumping out of an airplane and having to make your parachute on the way down. I know I've used that analogy before. So I've definitely found times where players in my game, like we've sent out a really important story character and, we're expecting them to be out, like giving a whole bunch of information for like a couple of hours. We're expecting players to like bounce off of all of this knowledge and get back to us. And a bunch of them are going to be like, holy crap, my mind is blown. Now I see this connection between this and this. 10 minutes after we've sent them out, they come back in. It's like, what happened? Someone killed me. Someone just murdered me in the back and stole my stuff and killed me. And then they destroyed my corpse. And you're like, shit.
Oh, shit. Oh.
Wow. I don't know how to go. I was like, I don't know how I followed that up. I've got 2 stories of one that's a funny, didn't plan this, but holy crap. And another one that's actually more of a coping mechanism for my anxiety. So it's a little bit sadder. So we'll start with that story first and then I'll end on the funny one. So how things occurred for Nellie G, like the way I've been talking about this a lot, the way she dresses, or the way I've dressed my character for Nellie is I wear a lot of sunglasses, giant sunglasses. And I've been telling people the reason why Nellie wears sunglasses, it originally started off with like Anna Wintour. But the reason why I kept putting them on more often was because I was experiencing anxiety. So it was actually a coping mechanism for me. Instead of having to stare into a camera, I actually put the glasses on and was able to kind of just go through my anxiety by myself while I was on the stream. So it was kind of a happy accident that I had the sunglasses so that I could like hide from the world, even though I was still like front and center. But there were a couple of times where I was going through it with my sunglasses on, and characters are like, "So Nelly, what do you think?" And I'm like, 1 second, please. So yeah, the sunglasses have become my coping mechanism. But in LARP, my funny thing that did not go to plan, I bring her up all the time, is playing the princess in Twin Mask. And I had some prep when it came to playing her, but actually getting out there and playing her was like a whole different ball game, because there are so many people who knew so much about her, and I only got like the 1 or 2 hours that I was prepped by the storytellers. So when I went out, I had this whole thing where I was going to the theater, and I had a whole retinue of people, and I even had a very tall assassin behind me. And I think I've told the story before, but like this was totally a happy accident for me. There was a whole group of people on the side who was like watching me, staring at me. And in character, I turn around and go, "How come they're not bowing their head to me?" And the assassin goes, "Do you want me to go kill them?" And I turned around and go, I totally dropped character. I was like, "You can do that?" And he was like, "If that is your will." And I was like, yes. So without planning anything, these entire group of people who had no idea why they were staring at the princess, but suddenly found themselves on the ground down to 1 hit point or something like that. I saw a lot of healers like running to go save these people as I just kept walking to the theater. So not planned whatsoever, and kind of a happy accident. And hopefully I established myself as a more terrifying and threatening character who was slightly off hinge there.
Nice. I guess speaking to your point of something that happened as a result of being a coping mechanism, I wouldn't call this a coping mechanism, but it's understanding my own body patterns when it comes to LARP. As I got older, I realized, I'm not a spring chicken. So sometimes your body needs more rest, or you cannot stay up as long as you would want, because paying attention to your body means making sure that you not push yourself past to the point where you don't want to push yourself past the point where you are sacrificing your own basic needs just to play. And so that ended up being one of the motivating factors of creating this other Twin Mask alt character named Contabas. Contabas is a demon of sloth, and I used the sloth sin in order for me to sleep wherever I wanted on the campground. So sometimes Ryan is tired. What does he do? I take a nap on the bench. If I get attacked, that's kind of like part of the deal. But it ended up being hilarious because I think there was a point where there was a battle going on. I went to the tavern and I laid down and I just told people, "Shh, I'm pretending I'm sleeping, but I am here just in case. I will throw them a fireball or something. Just don't shh, shh." And John Bassett, who's the head of Twin Mask, came in as character, like I guess saw me just passed out, even though I was pretending to sleep. And he said, "The fact that you actually commit to sleeping the entire battle was amazing." And I'm like, "Shh, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just being sneaky." And so every time I was tired and I didn't want to play anything political or serious, Kanabas was just a big fun, almost like a Garfield the cat type of demon, because he likes to feed people. He will get savagely mean with you if you attack his friends. But when he's not that, he's lazy. He's a lazy ass. It's great.
Man,
I
it's
think
gonna
that's
be
a good way
nice.
of-
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of taking sneaky self-care. That's pretty
Sneaky
awesome.
self-care.
Moving my camera.
Kai, do you have a I know you're a big advocate. I mean, actually, everyone here is a big advocate of self-care, and all of us have our own coping mechanisms. And Sin, you described yours. I described mine. Kai, do you happen to have one? And if it's not one that you want to talk about, completely okay. But I just thought it was interesting that some of us did pick interesting ways to role play and then crafted a character almost around it.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever had a character that is like that. In one game I play where I'm basically a fantasy cop, I spend a lot of time sitting down, and people bring their problems to me. So that has definitely helped me when I'm feeling pretty exhausted. But I mean, in terms of self-care and stuff, I feel like a lot of my self-care is how I attend LARPs. I either have like a tall inflatable mattress that I can like sit on rather than something that is like floor height, or I have like a camping cot that folds out. I am no longer capable nor willing to sleep on the floor for any reason. Um, right now, I can hear us.
All right. And I know that we had Ryan at session 0 was in the middle of typing a question, but before we get to that, Sin, you had a story.
I do. So Kai brought up like an awesome point that I wanted to talk about: self-care and your bedding situation when you're in a weekend LARP scenario. So it's kind of a long-winded story, and it'll give time for questions to pop up. So my sister and I, for prefacing, we don't camp, y'all. Like, we are not the outdoorsy kind of people. Like, I have long nails normally. Like, I am a high maintenance kind of gal. Like, I am a hotel over like scrapping it kind of person. So when the idea of having to go camping at a LARP came up, I was like, how the F are we going to pull this off? Luckily, we have a great friend, Kai, who provided us with a beautiful yurt.
It's a tent.
Tent. Great.
Yeah. They have the poles and the canvas.
Yeah. So this thing was ginormous, y'all. Like for two like small in stature young ladies, try to put that shit up was real hard. And we would try really hard to get like other people to help us, and they're like, yeah. And they put like one pole up, and they'd be like, oh, I gotta go see a friend. So my sister and I are like hauling ass to make it happen. And so our first iteration of camping, oh my God, I got to tell a story y'all are going to laugh about. So I buy inflatable bed, like already had it. So just like what Kai suggested, like I had like the high top bed that you can kind of like just climb into. My sister, trying to be cost effective, got one of those beds. I don't know if y'all seen it on Instagram like a while back, where like you open it and you can like turn around the wind really fast and capture a whole bunch of air and then like close it. And it kind of looked like a hammock thing.
Oh yeah. Like it's like almost looks like a beanbag.
Yeah, kind of, but it looked like a boat almost. And she was playing a pirate at the time, so she was like, "Yeah, this is really fitting for my character. Like, I'm totally gonna do that." I was like, that's probably not the best idea for your back and stuff like that. Like, you might want to actually get like a real bed. She's like, "No, this is way better. This is cheaper, and like, who knows if we're gonna actually do this whole camping thing really anyway? So I'm just gonna go with this. It'll be fine." She ended up on the floor the next morning. So I like looked down. I was like, "Are you okay there, buddy?" Like, fast forward to what our rig is now. Obviously, we gave the tent back, and we work with a tent that is much easier for us to both pick up and handle by ourselves, and easy pop up. So we have the easy up tent. And I used to have the flotation mattress, but it's just me hauling everything up and down the hill to go set up our camp. So now we have two cots, which is awesome. We are allowed to only have 2 bins for costumes that reside underneath our cots. We actually have carpet lined in our tent. I was laying out the literal carpet, and John Bassett comes walking by, and he was like, "Are you putting carpet in your tent?" Yes. Yes, I don't camp, I glamp, you guys. Like, I like nice carpet under my feet in the morning. I rolled out the carpet and did the thing. And like, my sister and I's tent is pretty beautiful. And so when it comes to self-care, like, I actually really love escaping to our little like utilitarian glamping tent to just sit there and stare at how awesome our configuration is and how well put together 2 girls who don't camp put it all together. That's my story.
Yeah, I ended up getting a very large tent because I decided after. So I was doing Wasteland Weekend, which for those who don't know is a Californian, like go out in the middle of the desert during the end of September and celebrate the apocalypse. It's been suspended this year, which is, for obvious reasons. But I'd been doing that for about 5 or 6 years now, and I was slowly just kind of buying new tents and upgrading and just, improving how I was camping. And that coincided with as I started to do more LARP. And very quickly I ended up with a very, very big tent that it was so big you could stand up in it. And I think the most people we fit in it at one point in time, which now terrifies me, is about 10 people. And the idea of having 10 people sleeping in a tent, even if it's a big tent, now is very uncomfortable to me, which is pretty interesting how social changes like that have really kind of influenced my perspectives. But yeah, I highly recommend, I don't know when we got cut off earlier, but I highly recommend getting good things to help you be comfortable when sleeping. Earplugs are really useful, and get a nice damn tent if you have to tent, because those little pup tent ones that you have to like crawl into on your hands and knees. I don't think anyone who hits their 30s are going to be happy with that.
Also, okay, can I add to that point? Yes, I agree with you. Anyone in their 30s, like, hell to them, no. Also, a good sleeping bag, as a woman who cannot generate a whole lot of heat, like, I got like one of those epic Arctic sleeping bags that I even use during the summer because I'm always just freaking freezing. But during the wintertime, it was probably one of the best purchases I ever had. A bed pad as well. Even if you're sleeping on the floor, some sort of like cushy mat was really great. And then my sister and I bought awesome onesies. So between the onesies, epic blankets, and a really good sleeping bag, and this is something else I learned: hot water bottles. Like the little, like the rubbery ones that you get for like when you're sick or something like that. You hit it with hot water and you put it at the bottom of your sleeping bag, and then like the hot patches that you use for your hands, like in your pockets, like what is it, pocket warmers.
Yeah,
I slept with those like a mummy, and I was like so warm. It was like the most amazing feeling. I think like this much of my face was open and like nice and cold. So as someone who doesn't generate a whole lot of heat, like like the sleeping bag is where it's at in the onesies, giant onesies.
Thank you, Mason. The don't sleep with your glasses not being protected is a good bit of advice from Pengu-chan there.
Yes. I actually do wear glasses, but when I LARP, if I LARP all weekend, I actually wear contacts the entire time because I am afraid of crushing my glasses. It has happened before where in the middle of the night I'm searching for something and I'm like, that's not a good sound. And so as soon as I have contacts, I'm like, I'm okay with having these contacts in my eyes over the entire weekend. I will take them out afterwards because I am completely afraid of like crushing my glasses by accident, like in the middle of the night, just trying to search for things.
Okay,
Not worth it.
so weird question as a glasses wearer. Do you not bring your case for your glasses? I'm like super adamant about that because of the whole contact situation and not wanting to crush my glasses. Like I have a little pocket on the side of my bed that I like immediately the moment I put my contacts on, I put my glasses inside my little protector and I put it like in my bed, like in the pocket of my bed. Like I am super weird about hotels and organization and travel and organization. So a little tip, bring your glasses case.
See, I get a little bit paranoid of being in a dirty place and any possibility of having to remove my contacts out of my eyes and then putting it back in, which means that more dirt and dust will get in it. So I would just over that week, because I don't do it very often, where I would just make sure that those lenses are lubricated like when I get up. So I do sleep with my contacts in them, but I just make sure that because they're not like hard contacts anyway. So it's okay to sleep with them like for a few days. And even like my optometrist or like the optician that I worked with, she said, well, this is a case where if you slept with in them for a few days, you'll be fine, but you just don't do it all the time. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I just have to make sure that they were lubricated. But again, very rare that I ever do them, and only in that particular case. So we do have a question from Ryan, X Session Zero Clothing. And that question is, when was the last time that you had planned out an entire session and the players immediately derailed right at the start and the new thing changed the course of the night?
I have a story, but I'm not quite sure that it changed the course. Well, so it derailed, but it didn't change the course of the night. I mean, it changed my night because I was actually pretty pissed off at the end of it. But but so it was my first time storytelling ever for Twin Mask, and I set up an escape room because I love escapes, and I really wanted to try to challenge myself to not only make one escape room but two simultaneously together, and they had to work together to like figure out the clues, and it all worked so precisely in my head. And as you guys heard me earlier, like I try to figure out every sort of scenario and situation, and I like weigh the risks of like what could possibly go wrong, and I had a pretty good summation of how it was going to go down. So the first problem was it was supposed to happen around 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. on the opening night, so Friday night of our game. A giant battle occurred at that point, and therefore nobody was available to do my mod. So my mod started at 2 a.m. Yeah, and for those of you who have done a weekend LARP know that 2 a.m. mods are usually what you call derp o'clock. So if you could imagine people at derp o'clock trying to solve an escape room to get the hell out was quite fascinating. And therefore I got a lot of the questions that I never thought that I would be asked in terms of lore bids with people. And I won't talk about what lore bids because like there was some really off the wall stuff. But essentially, like the way the whole thing was set up, like there wasn't necessarily a lore bid that was needed. You just really needed to use logic to get yourself out of the situation. So where one room was trying to bid as many lores as possible to try to like negate figuring out the actual puzzle in front of them, the other room on the other side figured it out in 5 minutes. How to get like in and out, and then they were stuck at the part where they actually needed information from the other room, and the other room was too far in advance. Anyways, long story short, had to vamp a whole bunch of things to get people to like unlock the chains and like open the box and like get to where they needed to do. And honestly, the biggest saving grace of the entire mod was Vivka, who played the character. I won't say who the character's name is, mainly because I forgot. Oh no, the strategist. There we go. That's her name. So Vivka was the first time that the strategist showed up, and she was just phenomenal of riffing all the stuff that I was giving her, and I would just be like whispering in Vivka's ear, like, just say like this and like she would go off and like do all these things. So like the mod came off successful, but in my mind I was like, for fuck's sake, like this was horrible, like this didn't go off very well, like oh my god, the players are gonna hate what I do, like this is awful. So it didn't change the night, except for the fact that like I feel like I had an awful night. I feel like I provided a bad experience, but overall, like actually people liked it. So yeah, things totally like flew off the chain, pun intended, there, but it worked out in the end.
Okay, like I have a couple. I'm trying to like they're very short. The first one was I sometimes will hold experimental games where a lot of me DMing is a lot of player suggestion. So an example would be I would start off with a murdered body and I would ask one player, okay, what item is full of blood is next to the body? Okay, so for you, and then I would ask another player, what room are we in? And then they would say bedroom or bathroom, or whatever it is. And I told another player, so I asked another player, okay, so what do they see when they're outside? I'm thinking, oh, we're outside of a castle, we're outside of, like of a storehouse, we're outside of a, just a regular place. And then immediately he said, well, we're outside of an airship in the air. And I'm like, I did not plan for that. I had planned for all of these locations to be on the ground. And now all of this is goodbye because they can no longer visit these places. So in spirit of keeping up with it, I just continue to ask my players questions like, okay, so what's in the next room? Okay, so what is down the hall? Okay, who do you encounter? And it actually turned out to be a lot of fun because it became a group collaborative storytelling game rather than me planning everything. So it was actually a great accident that happened. And I now love doing it, being able to just improv an entire game from scratch. I think a second story. The second story actually had to deal with our Hollywood game. Our Hollywood game, our vampire game, Hollywood Forever. And it was a case where this was not at the beginning of the session, but Jason, Carl, and I were both playing Archons. And we were the buddy Archons. So, and it was actually kind of like this
movie.
Huh? Yeah, it was like based off of buddy cops. So he was the older and more experienced Ventrue Archon, and I was the young upstart Bruja Archon. He worked for the Ventrue Archon, and I worked for the Toreador. I'm sorry, he worked for the Ventrue Justicar. I worked for the Toreador Justicar, and we would always try, and we would just like a combination of like antagonize each other, but at the same time just keep tabs on each other because I was the muscle and he was the brains. But when we were looking at all of the politics that were happening in the council, we were trying to slowly mold the council in the direction that we needed, only so that we were trying to make sure that the people who were not talking so much to be able to talk. We had a very amazing person who played the prince, our friend Poisel, and they started to cite very hard Camarilla law, and both Jason and I, who are Archons, we were like, even out of character, we know you're trying to mold this, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, that's not exactly how this works, and also we're not in the same world, and everything is different. And so what we kind of had to do was like slowly get other people to talk, because unfortunately when a prince talks, everybody else shuts up and listens. And when other people, and unfortunately, like there is this dynamic that happens, and I'm going to be frank, that happens among men or people who are aspected male, that they often happen to just talk a lot and often over women in a LARP circle, and they don't know that they do. And so Jason and I were like, we were like constantly asking the women in the circle just for like their opinions. And then there was a point where I just kind of had to explain um to our to our prince, please don't talk over my clanmate. And I just stared at them. Please don't. And finally they began to talk. And again, not any offense to anyone there, but I thought it was but what I thought was like derailing was I actually didn't expect that dynamic to happen, especially when all that group of people were friends, you know. But it was interesting just in that scenario when people who had that power and also previous knowledge of vampire were like using it a lot, and to be able to balance that out, we just kind of had to uh, Jason and I had to kind of we had to play call you on your shit. And again, and again, much love to all of my players. Like I think you are all amazing. But I do remember that moment just to make sure that the women in that group could talk. And then when they did, it was amazing, especially when they began to talk collectively and become more vocal. And it was like, yes. So that was cool.
I must have walked into that moment differently because I remember walking in and immediately talking over Poisel.
It's because you also had a previous knowledge of vampire. And
yeah.
I think that helped. Also, I think knowing that Jason and I were in the room, like I think you are already such a superb player that knows vampire like very well, especially since you were playing La Sombra. Like I had no worries about you. But like there were many other players that were new feeling their characters, but like it was so important to me that other people got worded entry.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think though, I think there was also the dynamic of the group itself. I think you talked about the whole idea of Camarilla and me being a little somber that wasn't part of the cam at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I felt I had more liberty to walk in and give my opinion, especially because I was one of the prince's lovers at that point.
Oh my God, you and your lovers. You and your love. Okay, talk about a scenario that has derailed like this game. You and your lovers. You had so many of them. And I remember having this talk with Bruce being the head storyteller for Hollywood Forever. And he goes, I don't understand what's going on with all of these things. And I'm like, Cynthia's character has all these lovers. That's what happened. And he goes, what? It's like, this is what happened. He didn't know. And I'm like, let me fill you in. Sorry.
When in doubt, apparently the best strategy is get a big harem and take over everything.
Oh my God. You were like the biggest polycule.
I mean, one of the best ways to LARP is through somebody's heart.
Oh my God.
Stab.
Steak. Steak.
Honestly, I did not anticipate having derailed such a story with all of that. My intent really was that I was up against a mountain. Like let's be real, right? A La Sombra trying to gain access to a Camarilla like driven place. That is unheard of and very difficult to do. And so when Bruce posed the idea of like it's gonna be really hard for you to do this, but go ahead. I was like, all right, how do I make allies super fast? Well, I made a whole bunch of character ties. And like, to be honest with you, I had one already pre-gen relationship, and that was with Kelly as the Bruja.
Mm-hmm.
And then B Dave and I, like, I mean, obviously we played Nelly and Victor. So that was just kind of like, hey, you want to riff on what we normally do? Like, sure, let's do the thing. Mm-hmm. And then I started talking to Poisel, and it also kind of came up the same way of like, hey, do you want to like continue like kind of how we like to flirt and stuff like that? Yeah, sure, great, it's fine. So by that point I had 3 and I was like, okay, all right, like we're good. And then PJ rolled in and I was like, hey, I have a proposition for you. Do you like, and he was like, yeah, I'm totally game. Like I'm super new at this and I don't know vampire. And I was like, so you're gonna play like an awesome Ventru and like you're gonna be my lover and like you're gonna help me out here. He's like, all right, cool, totally down. And then I arrived, and Satine was just like, "Hey, is it okay that we flirt with each other? Like, really, like?" And I was like, "Okay, are you sure? You're Toreador, fine. Like, let's let's do it." So by that point, like before the story even started or the game even started, I had already all of these character ties, and then every one of them became a primogen.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, this was easy. And I looked at Bruce, and Bruce was just like, yeah, this is gonna be real hard for you. I was just like, uh-huh. And then when they started voting in the La Sombra, I remember Bruce's face being like, how the did she do that?
And I knew what was going on.
So yeah, the
Talk
La
about
Sombra.
derailed, but because you played it, you played a thread that was a completely role play, completely legit. Because there are multiple forms of power. You just chose one that required the most intimacy and the most partners.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. And then everybody found out that I was no, you know what? Nobody found out I was actually Sabat. I actually became Prince at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I was completely Sabat. Like the cam was so fucked.
I had some suspicion, but I mean, genuinely, my character didn't give a shit because the cam pushed him and his clan out. So
I loved how you played your Gangrel Kai. Like I was like feeling like camaraderie there, like La Sombra, Gangrel, like we were both fucked.
Yeah, Mouse was, like, was it Mouse? Was it Mort?
Yeah, the weird irony of calling like some really fucking old Gangrel Mouse, even though he just kind of stomps around. He used to be a primogen and got kicked off of it, and then is just running around as like the local prince's headhunter for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had like a hand axe that I would like a rubber hand axe that I was occasionally gesturing under someone's nose. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, your group actually, even though they operated outside or inside or outside the Camarilla, they were actually like a significant group.
Yeah.
Like I think there was a point where I think there were, I think at one game there were more Gangrel than some of the other groups, or at least they were one of the most numerous.
We had, I think we had 4 other members, not including myself, and I know I missed a game or 2, and then when I came back, we wove in a good way of like basically I was like, I don't mind putting my character on the chopping block. He's been kidnapped by the Human Inquisition. Can the rest of the Gangrels break him out? And they did it, and they did it very well. But yeah, like when I come back, I'm more like, all right, I told you to expand. What have you done? And they're just like, here, and just dropped huge amounts of influence and resources, and like, we've got this, and this. I'm like, we have an army. I'm pretty sure in the Camarilla you're not supposed to make this many other vampires, but we've done that, and we're Gangrel, so we're bulletproof. Okay.
Yeah. So Pimtastic wrote there were so many layers to that game that I didn't even notice. Like that particular storyline, I had no idea until I was standing there when they were trying to talk about your rescue. And they're like, we have this. We need you to do this. And I was just like, damn, y'all, like.
So the reason why is that when on our first game, when most of the Gangrel were together, and we were like, what's the plan? And Mouse was very clear. All right, here are my plans. I want to get us re-recognized into the Camarilla, because being second-class vampires is shit. And I want us to expand as much as possible. I don't care about the rules. Our Gangrels were so ingenious with that stuff. I mean, if people, for our listeners, every player character was given a couple of, I think either 1 or a couple of like influence cards that were specifically, you cannot use this, you have to give it to someone else. And you have to like negotiate and trade with it. And if you get someone else's cards, they are worth, you know, like influence that you can then do things with. And then they, Bruce and Ryan and everyone gave us a listing of like, if you can get 12 influence a game, you can pretty much do like a citywide world-changing event. Like you can make serious waves or something. And every game, we got more than that, and we just dropped it into one project. So yeah, it was a little crazy.
One thing that I absolutely loved about Hollywood Forever was that that particular group was just full of such good role players, but
and a lot of new role players. Like there were lots of new LARPers there, and they all just kind of like really took their time and like got into things in a very good way.
I mean, it was Vivka and Kelly's first LARP, and what was cool was that we also had like the Bassets there. So then they begin to learn about Twin Masks. It's like, oh, okay, let's go try this out. And it was like just really cool, like seeing like the world of live streamers that, you know, who are our friends, and then the world of LARPers that we know, and then put them all in one group and then see how they mesh. And they actually meshed pretty well. And it was actually beautiful. I loved when people, like, as a result of having met at Hollywood Forever, they began to hang out or they began to work with each other on things. And I'm like, I helped with that, you know? Like, I always love when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, I had a fun moment during that though with B Dave, where he and I like actually got in each other's face, and in a room we closed the door and we literally just started yelling at each other on the top of our lungs, because we knew that two new role players who hadn't ever LARPed in their life were standing outside the door with their ear pressed, and so like B Dave and I like did the like like just starting like screaming at each other. And when we like opened the door, they were just like the two like new LARPers were like, like we didn't know like what's going. Oh my god, it was like the best moment in the world. I loved it. I really wish we would play that game again. That was a good one.
Like the pandemic prevented us from having the next game that we were going to come up with. There's one other thing that I wanted to bring up because this moment was very special. This was our friend like Grant's first LARP. You know, and he decided to play a Nosferatu, Grant Imahara, and he decided to play Nosferatu. He came up with all the makeup and like made himself hidden, and all he did was sit in the back and spy on everybody. And I remember this very clearly, that he would just sit in meetings. People would try to use their auspex to find him, but they always lost. And I remember I, as the Archon, did notice him, and he just hunches over and says, you know, I'm not worthy, but here's all the information that I got. And I'm like, oh my god, wow. And they didn't know. So it's like, no. And then I gave him like a boon, and then he just kept and he just kept giving me information throughout the night. And he was so proud of playing Nosferatu. He absolutely loved it. And so it's like, oh my god, like it was just a great moment, you know. So
Hey, can we circle back real quick to the last question that we just had, because somebody around here didn't answer, Mr. Kai.
Yeah. Mr. Kai.
I'm kind of struggling a little bit on having good examples of it. But I will say, as an event runner for a LARP, the best thing to do is twofold. So I'm going to make this into a bit of advice rather than actually sharing a fun story. Always prepare for the unexpected. That doesn't mean that you have to make plans for everything, but you have to be aware that sometimes you'll have your ideas just very neatly like this, and the second the players show up, they will just chuck it. So Actually, I don't even know if on the feed people saw I was holding up that pad of paper, but I realize we're more zoomed in. But regardless, if you have your best laid plans will almost never be executed perfectly unless one, you are incredibly lucky, or two, you are railroading the shit out of your players. However, with that in mind, when you let go of the ego of this is exactly how I went to tell this story, and you more have it in broader strokes, that you let your players start to fill in with their fine detail of actually playing in the world, I feel that you will have a lot more fun. And rather than feeling stressed of I need to get this story out there, you will more be able to become enthralled in the moment and enjoy the fact that people are playing in the sandbox that you have made, and you get to admire the castles that they're building right now and smashing, sometimes their own, sometimes other people's.
Like one way to kind of like frame it is, instead of having plots that they must run through, they should have like almost like elements for them to discover. Because if they feel like they've worked for it, or they just kind of hit it on their own, they're almost like likely to be more invested in it. In fact, sometimes it's always the NPC that you never think of. It's always going to be the shepherd boy that was looking for their lost sheep that will grab all the attention rather than the quest giver. He says, save my kingdom, because sometimes it's more relatable, or sometimes that's just kind of what they're looking for. But it doesn't mean that that shepherd can't be led to other things. Also, they might be emotionally invested in the shepherd just in case something happens to him.
All right. On that note, I would actually like to do a lightning round of questions for y'all.
Okay.
So real quick, because I know we're getting closer to the end of our stuff, but I'm gonna shoot these questions out there. So ready? How long have y'all been LARPing? Ready, set, go.
21 years. I started in 2000.
I am about 9 years, but those have been spread out over my life because I've had times where I've absolutely stopped LARPing. Like I grew up in England and then I moved to America. And it took me a long time to actually feel comfortable getting into American LARPs because I heard all of the horror stories in Europe about American LARPs. They are not necessarily true, but it didn't stop the fact that I was worried about it until then. So I'm glad I jumped back into it. But yeah, about 9 years for me total.
Rad. Mine, I think I'm on 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm on 5. Okay. Your best dressed character.
Sicario La Paloma. He is the best dressed character. He has like a feast coat, and I feel the most confident just wearing that outfit. It's beautiful. I feel like a noble.
Kai?
Oh, sorry. That's tricky because honestly, as a professional costume maker, costuming is kind of one of the main ways that I love to tell a story. For those of you who have been listening to our podcast for a very long time, the first ever episode that I was a guest rather than a host, I gushed heavily about the importance of costuming to make a character. So it's a really hard call on that, but I would say that I really enjoy my duelist vampire hunter kind of guy. I run around with a classic Warhammer style, like big leather Puritan witch hunter hat, very Solomon Kane or Van Helsing style. I have this really big, like fancy, like leather trench coat that's got a split down the middle of it, so it's more of a riding coat. And I have a number of other just fun things just layered underneath that. I have knee-high boots covered in buckles. I have like knee and elbow armor and things like that. And for those of you who are in the American Ren Fair circuit, like you might have gone to an American Ren Fair, sometimes you might see like little leather kind of like harnesses that you can wear over your shoulders, like ruffles. and they are like leather ruffles that go around the back of your neck and then kind of spill down the front of your chest. I got a set of those because I wanted to appear kind of foppish, and I actually think they ended up looking like surprisingly more badass than I anticipated, even if, again, my character does look kind of foppish and extra. So yeah, I would say that character.
Right on. My best dress is probably Nelly G. To Kai's point, costuming is everything. Like, I love costumes, and it does absolutely tell the story of your character. But if I had to say best dress, like hands down, it's always going to be my vampire Nelly G. Okay, here's one. Longest living character that you have in a LARP?
All of them. I've never had a character perm.
What?
Apart from in one-shot LARPs where I'm meant to.
Yeah.
In terms of like long-form campaign LARPs, my characters have never actually like been permanently dead. In all honesty, in Dystopia Rising, my diesel jock rockabilly character, like biker dude, never died until I intentionally got him killed because I wanted him to die because it would be good story. For my character in Twin Mask, I do make stupid decisions sometimes and run off and get stabbed and killed, but Twin Mask is pretty reasonable about the number of times that you can come back alive. So I've not actually had any character permanently die in a long form LARP. Not yet.
For me,
I'm
it's
sure it will come.
for me, it's Sicario Paloma, the Archduke, or Duke of Ray, has been in game since day one, game one. So he's still alive. When
That's
we
like
do go
10
back
or
to
12-year game.
Yeah, it started in 2011.
Woo.
So I remember
Yeah.
the very first game. It was like below 40 degrees. It was raining. We were in a structure. Everybody was wet. They were describing everyone just who just died and are coming back for the first time. And the very first thing that came out of my mouth is, "This is the worst party ever." And I sneered at everyone because, like, I can't believe this is happening. I also didn't realize that I had died.
I think mine is actually Lola in my very first LARP ever. She's still around, and I actually got to play her a couple of weekends ago on the online game that we were doing. So it was quite fun because she has a memory flaw, and due to some personal circumstances, I stopped playing the game, and I actually recently came back, and because of that, I used my memory flaw and erased all of her memories. So it's like 51st dates where she started all over again and doesn't remember a thing. That was great, especially like seeing all the whispers, but like, oh my god, she's back and she used to be the seneschal, but like she doesn't remember anything, like all that kind of stuff. It was great. It was we did have a quick question here.
Yeah.
Who got you into LARP?
I have a good one for that, and this is definitely going to have to be the end of our show after this.
Yeah.
Because we are running a little over now. But for me, my the way I got into LARP was because of a pretty girl. She was nerding out to me. I used to play like Vampire with her, just as a like the pen and paper tabletop game. She was a cute goth girl, and she was like, "Yeah, you should come hang out and check out this LARP thing," and introduced me to it. And nothing ever happened between us. We formed a very good friendship. I still once in a while talk to her. I don't think she realizes how much of an impact it's had on my life. But yeah, I ended up basically meeting a whole bunch of this like nerdy gaming society that was a club at the local university that was within walking distance of my house. I was 16 at the time. I was not old enough technically to actually even attend the university. But for the next like 3 or 4 years, I was hanging out with them constantly. And I never enrolled in that university. So that is the University of East Anglia in England. The Game Society, also known as GameSoc. So if anyone ever hears of that, it's a shout out to them.
For me, it was my friend Sarah. We were both part of the anime club. I think we were both officers of the anime club, or at least like somewhere in there at Berkeley. And I remember one time she went to a KublaCon, and she said she tried this LARP, and we're like, we're anime geeks or we're otaku. So we were in that moment where we just kind of laughed and like, oh my God, you do those things where you pretend to be vampires on campus, really? So that was kind of like where we started. However, one day Sarah came in to the anime club and she wore this beautiful PVC dress and she just stood up with like a lot of confidence. And the first thing we noticed is, oh my God, you have boobs. Um, it's because like where it was cut, we did not. She used to wear like a very big flannel shirt, so we just kind of thought she was just not very confident. She was like a little hunched over, but she kind of stood and like they were just there, and we were like, it was almost like an anime show, right? But for me, what I noticed was just how much more confident she looked, and I'm like, I want to try this. I want to know why she looks so confident. And so she dressed me up in a tuxedo and tails, and that's how I went to my first vampire game. I went as a vampire ghoul, and my very first game, I got kidnapped by a rival prince, the Prince of San Francisco, in order to piss off the Court of Oakland. And that's how I got introduced into a game.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Before we was that the full of your story? I don't want to cut you off.
No, that was
before we do Sin's one, because I'm actually quite eager to hear Sin's story on this. Pengu Chan, you asked if I ever did the Lorien Trust LARP at back in England. I absolutely did. I started out with a local fantasy LARP that was actually created by the University Game Society. I think I still have a copy of the rules somewhere. I probably shouldn't, but I do. But yeah, I moved from playing that, and all of them, once I got friends with them, they were like, yeah, we do this other game that you should come and check out. You should come with us. And we all, I mean, now it's rather problematic, but back at the time I had no idea. We were all playing Drow, so we were absolutely covered in like black face paint and spray painted our hair white. Yeah, we were part of one of the factions. I think it was, they were the neutral faction. Well, there were many neutral factions. I want to say Griffins. I might be wrong there though. But I remember one of the head leaders was this like angry dwarf with the name of like Grimoire or Grimgruff or something, Grim something. But yeah, I absolutely did play quite a bit of Lorien Trust, and it was a lot of fun. It was actually the first LARP that I ever attended that I actually got like emotional and started yelling at a person in character, because I was absolutely sure out of character that someone was not a bad guy, and we were all talking about killing this character, and I got super heated and started yelling at everyone about it, and I was so fooled. It was amazing. I didn't find that out until after the game. But yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I don't have quite as fun of a story there. My first time LARPing. So it's definitely, well, who introduced it to me was Jason Carl. It was on the Bloody Mary. No, sorry. I feel like it's called Bloody Mary. Oh my God, the ship. Why can't I think of this right now?
Queen Mary.
Thank you, Queen Mary. Wow, Bloody Mary. Oh, I know why I talked about that. The horror interview that I just did. Okay, anyways, Queen Mary. We were doing a Kickstarter video for By Night Studios, and everybody was talking about LARP, and I was like, what the frick is this thing that everyone's talking about? So Jason sat me down and talked about LARP, and I was like, yeah, okay, nerds, cool. Like, I'm out. I don't need to do this. Flash forward like a few years later, Jason wanted me to go to the Queen Mary. I unfortunately couldn't go because of business reasons, but that didn't stop me to go. The next year, I went to Vegas as my first one, and we actually have several episodes way in the distant past that actually talks about my first time LARPing, so I won't go into the full story. But my first time LARPing and not a one-shot. The person who introduced me to that is Ryan Omega. And he actually helped me through my first LARP, which is the character I played was Lola. And so as you guys already heard, I still play her. So yeah, it was kind of a twofold thing. And then the person who dragged me very happily into the camping life of LARP and buffer LARP is Kai. So yeah, I kind of had like the threefold of like, this is the fancy LARP, this is the LARP outside, and here's the LARP that's gonna come kick your ass by like three different of my like favorite people in the world. So
yeah, this is a LARP where you I still fondly, like, it's funny. Like during COVID, I've been doing like the gym and things like that, and I used to do like weight training ish, nowhere near, not with these little sticks, but still, I used to do a lot more like healthy weightlifting and things like that, and then I got into LARP, and I kind of stopped doing that. But I always hated when working out the pain in the muscles and things. Like I would always just be limping around, going like, "Oh, I feel so old." But when it came to like the pains that you would feel after LARPing, and like, oh, I'm going to be walking funny tomorrow, even though I just sprinted like 100 yards to get away from a troll. But it was worth it, kind of thing. And it's almost like LARP pains are like a badge of honor. But workout pain is more just like filled with regrets for me. And it's the same damn thing. And I don't know how I cannot like put those two together. They have to be separate in my head somehow.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to figure out a LARP-centric workout.
I have heard of workout programs that are like cardio based that literally involve like the trainers are zombies and they are trying to catch you.
Yeah. I am so here for this. Well, we're starting to hit that derp hour for our podcast. Ryan, do you want to close it out?
Yes. So you could find me on Twitter under Ryan OMGA. You could find me on Instagram under Ryan Omega. You could find me here under Life Action Roleplay. If you see any of those accounts, I'm usually behind them. This Tuesday, here on Life Action Roleplay at 8 p.m., we're going to be starting a new show, which is called Game Over Video Chat. And what we are going to do is we're going to play some games that involve Zoom or Discord, because it's one thing that I've actually found out, like from Indicate, there's not a lot of shows or any shows right now that actually explore what games are there to play over Zoom. And our first guest will be a friend of mine, Sharang Biswas, who's one of my co-designers for D&D Live and Reality RP. He was the editor of a set of games called Honey and Hot Wax, an anthology of erotic games that was nominated for Indicate this year. So we're going to be taking their most PG-13 game called The Sleepover, and we're going to be playing that because it's the only game that is PG-13. He is suggesting some other games that we'll review, but it'll be our first time to be able to explore what kind of LARP games are there. And that could also include games like 10 Candles and how do you convert that for Zoom roleplay. So we're always looking for games that you could play on Zoom. And if there's also games that we are able to play with chat, I am more than open to finding what exists and even inviting the game designers here on that show. So that's going to start this Tuesday at 8 p.m. on here at twitch.tv/Life Action Roleplay.
How about Kai? Where can we find you?
I don't know why anyone would want to, but you can find me on most places on the internet under Yo Kai Props, YOKAIPROPS. Yeah.
All right. I guess I am the last one. You guys can find me on Instagram, Cynthia__Marie. It's where I post all of my costume pictures, now dance videos, because I decided to start dancing again. and just anything generically funny. Or if you want to see kind of a day in my life, I post on Twitter at Sin Dancer. I also post on both places what shows I have coming up. I have a game coming up on November 13th. I know it's a D&D campaign. All the details will be on most of my social media, so stay tuned for that. I am also going to be playing for Jasper's Day, which I'm really, really excited about, that you can actually buy raffle tickets if you actually want to come play with me, and Trish Hirschberger and Diana D'Amico. And our DM is Fenway. So really excited for that. So if you want to come play, go check out the Twitter, go get a raffle ticket, and maybe you can be the special guest on the show. Otherwise, coming up in the holidays, I'm probably going to kind of take a break from gaming a little bit, just because like the holidays are coming up and I kind of want to stuff myself with some turkey. And it's also going to be my birthday coming up. So like, yeah, just going to probably lay low for a little bit. But anyways, if I'm doing anything exciting, it'll be on my social media and Twitter. Oh, one other thing. I am a DICE affiliate. If you guys didn't know that, with Die Hard, and I have a new promo code for you guys for November. It's Synsgiving, CYNGIVINGS, 10% off of whatever merchandise that you would like to purchase. Part of the proceeds go to the charity of my choice that I've chosen is Anxiety and Depression Association of America. So please, 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 even if you can buy one set, that is money that will be going to the charity to help research for anxiety and depression. So please help wherever you can.
Repeat that?
Yes.
The
The promo code is Synsgiving, CYNGIVINGS.
And what's the company?
It's Die Hard Dice. They came out with some really great stuff too recently, and there is going to be some seasonal promotional stuff that's going to be coming out really soon. So stay tuned for that. But here, just for you guys, this is some of the new dice that came in.
Nice.
Which are some really beautiful iridescent, like it's actually really not even like doing it justice. Gorgeous dice that are coming up. And speaking of dice, real quick, hopefully my little gifts will be coming in for you too shortly. But I ordered something from Liquid Bubble Shop. Make sure I got her name right in there, or their name right. Yeah. Oh, Liquid Nebula Shop. They are a dice designer in Puerto Rico, and I have a couple of little surprises that are going to be coming for Ryan and Kai coming up.
Thank you.
So I'll premiere those when I get them and whenever our next show is.
Yeah, and before we forget, just want to give a shout out and thank you to our TD Joe, who is always here with us to make sure that everything runs. To all of our Patreon supporters, thank you for supporting us and trying to figuring out our making new content during this time of challenge. And of course, I feel silly that I did not mention this, but I did save this. Tomorrow is going to be Secret Community College of Readiness Initiative training, where Cynthia and Kai are two of the students, as well as our friends Joey, PJ, and Courtney. It will be our 6th episode, and we're gonna, after doing that episode, I'm gonna take a break for a little bit. So if you want to catch the end of the very first day of school, because that took 6 episodes, again, talk about things that were not planned. I did not expect for the first arc to all take place in a single 24-hour period. I was thinking we're going to be 4 weeks into the game time, but no, we're only not less than 24 hours. Things that were not planned, but very, very grateful. And that'll be here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific Pacific Standard Time, and you could find past episodes of Secret and the most recent episode of the live action role play on our YouTube if you want to catch that, or the VODs on Twitch. And
all right, yeah, I was like, you're the responsible one with the closeout, so you go for it, Ryan.
All right. Oh yeah. Let's see. Who do you want to raid? Do you know let's raid
got,
I was gonna suggest our friends over at the Scabby Rooster.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that too.
That's a good one.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna raid our friends at the Scabby Rooster. who are in VR chat right now, and they've done a remarkable job for me at Indiecade, playing all of the VR indie games. Please say hi to them. So stay tuned. We're gonna go and raid them. And until next time, bye.
Bye.